and throttle up.
Heavy roger, go for deploy.
Thanks to you and to everybody in the shuttle program. The crew is go for launch.
Roger, nice to be in orbit.
We have followed in their footsteps to get us where we are today.
Station, this is Houston. Are you ready for the event?
Hello, Houston. We're ready for the event.
JSC PAO, this is Mission Control Houston. Please call station for a voice check.
Station, this is JSC PAO. How do you hear me?
JSC PAO, loud and clear. Welcome to the space station.
Thank you. Great. Well, welcome and good morning from Houston, and thank you all for joining us today. We have many questions already in the queue for our crew. As a reminder for our media on the phone bridge, please press *1 if you have a question and *2 to withdraw your question if it gets answered. All right, let's jump in. We will start with Michael Sheets from CNBC.
Hi, guys. Thanks for taking the questions, and I hope you can hear me pretty well up there. I'm curious to hear a little bit more about your experience testing out Crew Dragon in the interim time you've been up there, as well as if you guys feel like you're ready to come back now, given the amount of time it's been already. But whether or not this experience is one that you'd rather be sticking up there or coming back down to test out the splashdown. Thanks.
Well, Michael, that's several questions. I'll see if I can remember all of them. But I think, from an on-orbit testing standpoint, we did habitability testing. We tested interfaces. We tested emergency comm. We tested emergency equipment. And just generically how we work with the Dragon docked on board, transferring equipment, transferring supplies. We're going to do a fair amount of that again tomorrow when we return equipment or supplies back to Earth. So most of that went exactly as we planned. There was a couple little tweaks here and there, but for the most part, we've had pretty good luck with Endeavour as far as on-orbit testing. It's performed just like it did for launch. And rendezvous. So we expect nothing different for the splashdown. Our experience up here has been like I think every space flight for most of us is a once-in-a-lifetime experience, and this one probably is a great topper, at least for me personally, just to be able to live and work aboard Space Station, a facility that the three of us all helped build during the shuttle flights. And just has been great to be a crew member with Chris and Bob on a day-to-day basis, supporting ISS operations, supporting science, supporting maintenance, the spacewalks, the 4 spacewalks that these guys did, the robotics that we did. It was just an incredible experience, and one that I will absolutely never forget and I'll always cherish.
Thank you. So next up, we have Russell Pounds from Pacific Rim Media.
Good morning. I'm not sure which one of you may have had this experience, but there's a quote I've always appreciated from Arthur C. Clarke. It says, "Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic." So the question is, what experience did you have that gave you that aha feeling and embodies that notion of the first gasp of delight? Thanks.
It's an interesting question, I think, to really put something out there as so advanced technologically that we would really have to describe it as magic in the way that it works. I think for all three of us, I'm personally from the Show Me State in Missouri, so if something like that was to happen to me and I was baffled by it, we wouldn't be scientists and engineers if we didn't strive to understand what it was. And so there's that initial moment of wonder when you see something that you don't quite understand, and then we strive to understand it. I think that's really our calling as folks that seek out and continue to try to find the answers to unknown questions. Anything that we found like that, we would pound flat until we did understand it. Those sorts of situations, probably for us, happen mostly when it comes to things that don't go exactly right. We think we fully understand something, and it doesn't proceed the way that we expected it to. We have a failure in a piece of equipment or in an operation, and it's a failure of the imagination, and then we strive to take it apart bit by bit. I think every space program has had its share of those sorts of events that we had to really dig down and try to understand what we didn't understand, and make sure we had a handle on it before we continued with operations. I think probably the three of us, at least from a technological perspective, don't believe in magic.
Thanks, Bob. So now we have Chris Davenport from the Washington Post.
Hey guys, hope you're well. Quick question. So obviously it's the first water landing since 1975. I was curious if you have spoken to any of the Apollo astronauts about that and what advice they may have given you. And then also I wonder if you could talk a little bit of your training and how much of it was dedicated to a splashdown, just given the differences from a shuttle landing. Thanks.
Hey, good morning, Chris. We didn't talk specifically with Apollo astronauts, but I remember specifically when I was still, before I was even assigned to this flight, working at flight operations, reading the after-action reports from the Skylab astronauts, which was a little bit more applicable in that those flights were a little bit longer. And, the water landing portion of it is pretty challenging from a physiological standpoint, just after coming back from being in microgravity for on the order of 1 to 2 months. I think the longest Skylab mission was close to 3 months, which is very similar to what Bob and I are doing. Obviously, there was some challenges post splashdown. Folks didn't feel well, and that is the way it is with a water landing, even if you're not deconditioned like we're going to be. So we think what we need to do is do our fluid loading properly. We've exercised very hard while we've been up here, and we're just trying to put ourselves in the best posture to be able to deal with those effects, and we'll just see where it goes from there. The ground teams are fully aware of the challenges of the water landing and what it does to the human body, and we'll just take it from there once we get on board the ship. We've got the flight surgeons on board that will be able to help us as well. So all those things have been thought about and are in place, and other than that, it's just time to go give it a try and see how it goes.
All right, we'll go to Eric Berger from Ars Technica.
Hi, guys. Looking forward to seeing you come home, hopefully this weekend. A couple questions. First of all, is it true that technical documents refer to the toilet on board Crew Dragon as Komodo Dragon? And how would you characterize the habitable volume inside Dragon? Like, would you be comfortable in there for more than a couple of days with 2 or 3 people, or is it kind of cramped?
Well, Eric, good to talk to you. I think we're not familiar with that Komodo Dragon reference for our on-orbit procedures, so that's not what we call it. The only other name other than Crew Dragon we've used is Endeavor, and we really appreciate the SpaceX guys allowing us or being comfortable with us putting a moniker on board their ship. It's something that we really cherish the opportunity to do. And as far as the habitable volume inside of the Dragon capsule, It's relatively small. So if you tried to put a full crew of 7 like we had on the space shuttle days inside that volume, it would be a stay in your seat sort of a situation. But with 3 or 4 people, the operations normally will, your job will be to be in your seat for the ascent and the docking, and then of course the splashdown. And so there's plenty of room in those locations, and around the interior of the vehicle, there is some spaces that folks can get out of their seats and kind of have their own small area to be in. So I wouldn't say it's a phone booth sort of a densely packed, but it definitely is cozy if you were to get up to 4 people.
All right, now we have James Rogers from Fox News.
Good morning, guys. So I have a quick question with regards to the splashdown. 2 questions, really. Obviously, the splashdown is such an iconic moment in terms of the in terms of space missions, we've been seeing that, so what's your first experience of watching splashdowns on TV? And also, kind of related to that, we have this new spacecraft, it's been designed to perform better in a splashdown scenario. How does what this capsule offer kind of differ to the, to the capsules that we've seen used in previous splashdowns?
Okay. Yeah, we had a hard time understanding the question, but I think just in relation to splashdown, as far as what we would experience, is that what you were asking?
Yeah, and also just in terms of kind of how does this capsule differ in terms of the prior capsules that we used in splashdown scenarios? I know a lot of design attention's been paid to that. So how is it different? How is it better?
Okay, I think we got it that time. Yeah, the recovery of Dragon after splashdown is that there'll be a couple of what we call fast boats will come up to the capsule at that point and make sure everything is safe on the outside of the capsule for it to be hoisted on board the recovery ship. And then at that point, the recovery ship is moving in and in communications with the fast boats. And once everybody gives the thumbs up that we're ready to be hoisted aboard, it'll get lifted aboard by a crane and cradled on board the aft portion of the ship. And then at that point, once it's secure on the back deck of the ship, then they can open the hatch and it'll be time for us to get out. Hopefully that answered your question.
Thank you, Doug. So next up, we have David Curley with Discovery Channel.
Dragon crew, thank you, and commander of the station, thank you for taking the questions. Everybody knows there are parts of flight that are extreme. It is reentry. In this case, the chief engineer of SpaceX says he's a little bit worried about plasma and potentially getting into the Super Draco pods. Bob, you said you weren't nervous. You're a lot closer now. What do you think? And Chunks, did you just say you're going to have a bag ready, which is completely understandable at splashdown? Thank you.
Well, Howdy, I think, as we get closer, I think we really focus more and more on our preparations to be ready for the splashdown activities. We spent the day today working through the onboard training that will refamiliarize us with the splashdown activities, what our responsibilities will be, the things that we'll monitor. And I know that the SpaceX team, the chief engineer there, and of course the NASA team are all looking closely at all the things that could possibly that they wish they had more information on, or that they feel the most uncertain about, and they share those with us on a routine basis. We got an update on the flight readiness review activities, and I know that the chief engineer's job is to make that list of things that are areas of concern, and then kind of balance that risk with what they currently know and with going forward. And that information's all been shared with us. And splashdown is closer than it was the last time we were asked questions about it, but I still don't feel nervous about it. And really, we're focused on the things that we'll need to do to be as safe as possible as we come back. and it does take a little bit of time, so I'll answer for Doug and say that we'll both have the appropriate hardware ready should we start feeling a little bit sick on board while we're in the vehicle after splashdown. But we know the team is going to get us pulled up and on board the ship relatively quickly, and so we're expecting to be as prepared as we can be and have a really good feeling of about being kind of under control as we get through all that.
All right, next up we have Andrea Leinfelder from the Houston Chronicle.
Hi guys, looking forward to having you back in Houston. My question is also about splashdown. The vehicle pretty much lands itself, so I'm curious what you guys think you'll be doing, what you think that experience will be like, if you'll be monitoring anything or looking out the windows or just holding on. Thanks.
Yeah, for the free flight portion of the flight, in other words, after we undock and phase our way back towards the deorbit burn and the reentry, we'll spend a good share of that sleeping and then monitoring the systems prior to and after we wake up. Then once we wake up, we will eat, fluid load, go through suit up, and then work our way into the entry portion of the flight, and then the deorbit burn then entry. So we'll be fairly busy when we're awake throughout the whole process, and then those last probably 2.5 to 3 hours will be very busy as we get suited up, strapped into our seats, and then we'll be monitoring all the different systems of the vehicle, ensuring that it's doing what it's supposed to be doing as we work our way back towards Florida. And then it carries on all the way down through splashdown. There are very key milestones that we have to go through that have to happen in sequence and in order and on time in order for everything to go the way it's supposed to. And if not, we along with Mission Control out in Hawthorne, California, the SpaceX Mission Control will be there to assist or to intervene if they need to do as well. So it will be very busy. There won't be a lot of looking out the window, certainly at that point. Where we sit in the vehicle, we can see through those forward windows somewhat, but mostly we'll be focused on the displays and the systems of Dragon.
We'll go to Gio Benitez from ABC News.
Bob, Doug, Chris, great to speak with you again and see that you're doing well. I have two quick questions. The first, we're all looking at that forecast. Are you at all concerned that this storm may be too close for comfort? And the second one, Bob, we hear your wife, Megan, she's going to be going up this spring. This is going to be her first Dragon flight. What tips do you have for her?
Well, I think from a weather perspective, just like everybody else on the NASA and SpaceX team, we look forward to the weather forecasts that are coming out daily at this point, and they'll even get more frequent as we get closer to the actual splashdown. I think on launch, the departure day, we'll start to get, every 6 hours, we'll get another forecast, sort of an update. So we're watching those closely, mostly to maintain awareness and see the trends and understand what the timeline would be if our recovery out of the water, for example, was delayed a little bit. But we have confidence that the teams on the ground are of course, watching that much more closely than we are, and we won't leave the space station without some good landing opportunities in front of us, good splashdown weather in front of us. And so they're keeping us informed, but the lion's share of that work happens on their end. We don't control the weather, and we know we can stay up here longer. There's more chow, and I know the space station program's got more work that we can do for those the PIs and other folks that have sent science up here to the space station. As far as my wife goes, she's super excited and to be assigned to a SpaceX mission right on the SpaceX capsule up here to the International Space Station. And of course, I'll have a lot of tips for her. A lot of them will be about how life on space station goes. I think that's been the thing that's been more unique rather than the capsule itself. I think that's probably where I'll have the most to share with her. but I'll definitely have some advice about living inside of Dragon and where best to pack all your personal items so that you can get to them conveniently. Because if you, just like any trip that you make, if you pack things appropriately, it can be a very fun trip. If you pack everything at the bottom of the big van that you take when you go on vacation, and you got to get it all out one item at a time at various times, it can be tiring and can eat into your enjoyment on the trip. And so I'll definitely have some tips for her, but it'll be hard to tampen out all the excitement that she has with any suggestions I have.
All right, now we have Joey Roulette from Reuters.
For doing this, what about the process of returning do you and the SpaceX team wish you had more information on? And earlier it was said that you'll have the appropriate hardware ready in case you guys get sick. Is that something as simple as a paper bag, or does Crew Dragon have, like, or the flight suits, do they have some kind of actual hardware for anticipating sickness? Thanks.
I didn't get your first question, but I certainly can answer your second one. Yeah, the appropriate hardware, just like on an airliner, there are bags if you need them, and we'll have those handy. We'll probably have some towels handy as well. And, you know, if that needs to happen, it certainly wouldn't be the first time that that's happened in a space vehicle. It will be the first time in this particular vehicle if we do, but not the first time by any stretch. As folks that fly in space know, that sometimes going uphill can be a little bit have an effect on your system, and sometimes coming downhill is the same way. So we'll just have to see how it goes, and we'll certainly let you know. What was your first question again?
The first question was, what about the process of returning do you and the SpaceX team wish you had more information on?
Yeah, I think, you know, the biggest challenge, and it was that way with Shuttle, is just the weather that we need in order to return home. You know, Shuttle had some fairly significant weather criteria relative to Dragon, their capsule vehicle, but we still have weather to deal with. And of course, anybody who's lived on the Gulf Coast or anywhere in the south along the coast in the United States knows that August and September are tough months to deal with the hurricanes that always tend to crop up, and 2020 seems to be a pretty active year by all accounts. So I think the biggest thing we'd all like to know is just the weather. But you know, as with any tropical system, they are, even with today's technology, somewhat unpredictable. They wobble, they move, the center moves. You know, and you have fronts that affect them and where they go, and that obviously has an effect on our landing areas. So, if anything, just we'd like to be able to predict the weather a little bit better than we can, but we have some of the best people in the business working on this for us, and if the weather is not good, we won't try to leave tomorrow. We'll leave on a different day when it is.
Let's go to Marcia Dunn from the Associated Press.
Yes, hi. For Bob, I'm wondering if you had a hunch before your flight that Megan would be riding your same Dragon to orbit so soon after your flight. And secondly, have you or Doug been in touch directly with Elon Musk during the flight? And if so, what's he telling you? What's he asking? Is he being reassuring about splashdown? Thank you.
Of course, I think, Marcia, we all have inklings or hints that things might be in work as we go forward. But as anyone will tell you who's been a part of the flight assignment process before, I know Chris and I have both assigned people to that role, and you know, really the decisions are kind of made and final really towards the very end of it. And so while there are hints of what might happen in the future, you know, we don't count our chickens until they're hatched, so to speak, with respect to flight assignments. So while I had a hint, you know, we always wait for the final data before we go forward with it. As far as Elon goes, we did spend some time with him pre-launch. And of course, with the Demo 1 mission, we were able to spend some time with him as well. Once we've gotten on orbit, we have heard from the management team at SpaceX. I know we've Gwen reached out to us, and Hans reached out to us, and of course Lee Rosen, and then their ops team lead Chris Young. So we've definitely been in contact with the entire spectrum of folks on the SpaceX side, and they've all been, it's not reassuring is the wrong word, but they certainly have confidence in the equipment and the plan that we have in front of us, and they continue to tweak and make updates to make it as best as it possibly can be for the splashdown that we're going to go through here in just a couple of days. And so I think that's probably the thing that really is most impressive about that team, is that willingness to continue to improve, to continue to make corrections. There are things that have changed, minor things, but things that they've thought a lot more about and tested on the ground prior to our splashdown. But since we've launched, and we've gotten some updates on those things, and it's the mark of a good team that continues to strive to make the product, make the event as successful as it can possibly be.
Now we have Robert Perlman from Collect Space.
Hi, guys. The first spaceship named Endeavour splashed down on the Apollo 15 mission on August 7th, 1971, just a few days and 49 years after your expected splashdown. Can you reflect a little bit on the legacy of spaceships named Endeavour, including your own? And do you intend or hope for Crew 2 to continue to use the name, or was that a call sign just for your flight?
Well, the name Endeavour that we used was specifically just for this vehicle. It was kind of a tradition where the Soyuz crews named their vehicles, and Apollo crews, Gemini crews, Mercury crews named their vehicles, and a lot of folks thought that it would be a good tradition to continue. So that's what we did, and it was probably a little more personal for Bob and I, since our first flights, along with Chris, also was on Endeavour, Shuttle Endeavour, and that's kind of where it started with us, and we just thought that was appropriate. But it's neat that it has a legacy that goes all the way back to Apollo, and honestly, I didn't realize the significance as far as how close it was to splashdown as what hopefully we'll be doing here in a couple days. So that's kind of also just kind of icing on the cake, I think. But we really thought that name was the name to use, and it really means a lot personally to Bob and I. And as Bob said before, we really appreciate SpaceX affording us that opportunity to name our capsule Endeavour.
And we have time for one, maybe two more questions. So let's go with Lauren Grush from The Verge.
Hi, thank you so much for taking my question. When Scott Kelly returned from his trip in space, he said he was looking forward to throwing himself in his pool when he got home. I know your mission has been much shorter than his, but anything in particular y'all are looking forward to when you get on the ground? Thanks.
Thanks, Lauren. I think for me, and probably for Doug as well, I think we're really excited to see our families. My son is 6 years old, and I can tell from the videos that I get and talking to him on the phone that he's changed a lot, even in the just a couple of months that we've been up here. And so that's the thing I'm most looking forward to, is of course seeing my family, my wife, and my son.
All right, and this will be our last question. We have Mark Carreau from Aviation and Space Technology.
Thank you. My question's for Chris. How would you assess what Bob and Doug brought to your mission in terms of contributions to science and technology development, and even just crew camaraderie?
Yeah, hi, Mark. It's a simple math equation. There was one, and then there were three. So we effectively tripled our ability to get work done. And with all three of us having been here before, it was in short order that we were running at full steam and getting all the science objectives, as many science objectives completed as we could. And with that, it was lonely conversations I had with myself at dinner prior to their arrival, and with these last 2 months, it's been fantastic to have buddies at the chow table to reflect on the day, think about tomorrow, and talk about world events and that sort of thing. So I'll definitely miss them when they head back.
Well, thank you so much, Bob, Doug, and Chris, and your two special guests over there to your right. We look forward to your upcoming return aboard Crew Dragon Endeavour. And Chris, we will see you back on Earth in October. We've enjoyed following your missions from the ground. Thanks to our participants today, and this concludes our event.
Station, this is Houston ACR. That concludes our event as we count down to 20 continuous years of humans living and working on the International Space Station. Thank you.
And thanks to everyone that participated. Station, we're going to now go back and resume operational comm.